They are right up on the podium. And also there are microphones in the ceiling. So your sidebars will get picked up. They're pretty good about picking up sidebar conversations. So just to let you know about that. And then we are live streaming to YouTube. So, you know, paint's temporary, films forever. So just to let you know, but with that, it's 6 o'clock and I'd like to call the July 19th, 2022 County Commissioners regular meeting to order. Commissioner Ibarra. Here. Commissioner Richardson is not yet here. Commissioner Gosar also here. Would you stand and join with the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, public hearing. There is none. Item 4 is comments from the public. Would anybody like to make a public comment? We'll take them first here and then go online. So any public comment here? How about online? Is there anybody who'd like to make a public comment online? All right, last chance, in person or online. I entertain a motion to close public comment. Second is moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 5, disclosures. Commissioner Ibarra, any?
I have none.
And I have none also. Item 6, considerations of changes on the agenda. Christina, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. We're going to make edits number 18 and 19. I will be removing the salary authorization forms for both of those entities, and it'll get replaced with letters to end the MOUs for both of those entities. So we'll be ending the MOU with the airport. They wrote us a letter for 30-day notice as of today, and then we have a letter to the Fair Board to end their MOU for 30 days. So we're getting rid of the salary increases and we're adding the letters to get rid of the MOUs.
Okay. But we still want those items on the agenda, 18 and 19.
Yeah, we'll just replace the verbiage if that's okay.
Okay. All right. Jackie, did you get that?
I did.
Okay. Jennifer, anything?
I do not.
Jackie, anything? All right. Item 7, approval of consent agenda. Mayor, would you like to move anything out of the consent agenda or?
No, I think make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Seconded. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Commissioner Richardson not here to vote. Item 8, present for consideration the Albany County Natural Resource Management Plan. I see David here and Mike, you're also here, so please feel free. David, thank you. The floor is yours.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. So, so we started this process back in early 2021. We hired Y2 Consulting to help us develop this plan. This plan is meant to serve as a foundation for ongoing discussions about public lands within the agencies that manage them. Much of the focus of this plan is to facilitate a collaborative relationship with federal agencies, and as we look at how we are stewards of our public lands. The plan also identifies Albany County's priorities and goals as they concern collaboration with federal agencies and federal land management decisions. So throughout this project, many stakeholders were engaged and used as a resource in developing this plan. Federal agencies, public land users, the general public were vital in providing this information to develop this draft. A public meeting was held in person via Zoom at the beginning of the project, and after the draft was produced, we held similar meetings in Rock River, Centennial, and in Laramie to gather public comment on what we had. All these meetings were all noticed in the paper, newspaper. We provided information to other media outlets, put it on a website, use social media to get the word out for these. Comments that were provided during these different types of meetings, the stakeholder interviews that we had, public meetings, etc., were received and thoroughly reviewed by the steering committee. The steering committee sat down and went through every single comment and discussed those and incorporated the ones they felt like they should incorporate and left those other ones out that they felt maybe weren't appropriate for the plan. But ultimately, the final draft from the Albany County Natural Resource of the Natural Resource Management Plan has been recommended by the steering committee for your consideration. I will note that there's a couple of formatting issues with the plan, and we've actually went through and corrected those. Once you receive, still have those. I think it's page 56. There is an inclusion into the this is the biggest, the glaring one, but it's included in the footer or whatever that pushed things out. So there's a sentence that kind of goes on for a couple of things around this chapter that was shoved in there. But that's been cleaned up on in our office. So at this point, I mean, it's up to you what you'd like to do with it. I mean, we've done everything required by statute to get it approved. So you can approve it. You can decide to take some more time with it. Whatever you'd like to do, it's your pleasure at this time. But I'd be happy to stand for questions. As you said, Mike Massey's here, also Bonnie Bath from the steering committee. If you'd like to hear any comments from them, and they would like to give any, we could do that this time, or you could ask questions or however you'd like to proceed.
What would you like to, if Mike and Bonnie want to?
Yeah.
Please don't feel like you have to, Mike. I really do appreciate the work that you guys did, and I know it was a heavy lift.
I still feel I'm willing to be on the hot seat too.
There's Laura. She's
All
right
right,
there.
all right, thank you.
Sorry, I was late.
Yeah, so if anybody has anything you want to say, if not, we can just start the question round.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, commissioners. Be glad to offer a few comments about the plan. To add on what was just said, the meetings were rather sparsely attended, even though they were well publicized. Not a whole lot of folks showed up, but those who showed up offered some comments. And then we got a few more written comments as a result of that. And they generally broke down in three categories. Some of them were rather technical comments, and in those situations, we made all the corrections that were suggested with regard to minor edits and comments. For one, for instance, someone from the ag community mentioned about bringing a study that was cited later in the report to bring it up into the ag section, for instance, on bighorn sheep and sheep studies. And so we did that, of course. We changed around some syntax, cleaned up some of the prose. A couple more substantive additions we made to it from the draft that you see now, as opposed to what you've sent out for comment. Some of the more substantive ones, one person commented that it wasn't clear as to whether this document pertains just to federal agencies or dealing with public lands, or just with federal agencies that are dealing with Albany County that are going through NEPA. And so we added a sentence there, I think in the second or third paragraph, to make it clear that it really deals with all of NEPA actions. 90% are going to be federal lands, BLM, Forest Service. But as you guys well know, also deal with WAPA, for instance, maybe the Federal Highway Commission, those types of things. And so this document would certainly apply to them, and they would pay attention to it. We clarified that to make sure that that's clear. There was a couple comments that we got, in fact, 3, dealing with the issue that's been around for a while about people hiking out in the national forest and having their dogs get trapped, whether it's a steel trap or some kind of a noose or something being injured. Now, really, that issue is a state issue. It's the Wyoming Game and Fish Department. The folks have not had success in getting the state statute changed, but they're still concerned about it. So as a result, we went into the plan, and in the narrative, we emphasized the importance to Albany County for people to be able to have safe experiences while they're recreating, whether it's snow machining or cross-country skiing, whether it's separating people who are out there on ATVs as opposed to primitive backcountry hikers. And then we use this example. If people were out there on the forest and they have pets, it would be good that they have a safe experience. And then, but we didn't change any of the priority statements or objectives because it's really probably something the federal government can't even really do because it is a state issue. But nevertheless, well, we did include it, a mention, just as a nod to those folks who came forward and offered that as a suggestion. There were some folks who showed up to continue the debate over windmills. And we pointed out to them that this was not taking the place of the county's other document, which lays out your policy with regard to windmill review. We did go in there though, and add a paragraph to point out the balancing act that needs to be done. While windmills and renewable energy is certainly important to Albany County, we also understand that other resources could come into conflict. And we sort of know what those are, and that the approach to it should be a balanced one and taking into account all these different factors. But we certainly weren't going to use this as a document to suggest to you that you change somehow this other document or the policies. But we did make that addition. Some things we didn't include. A lot of suggestions that we should use shall instead of should. Well, we figured, it's pretty much the same thing. Should sounds nicer. This document seems to be want to be nice to the federal government, want to encourage a discussion with them, and don't want to dictate to them on something that really they have the final say on. So we kept should most of the time. There were suggestions that we drop references to private property since this pertained to just the federal government, but there's a lot of interactions, of course, of private property owners with federal agencies, especially ranchers. And we wanted to keep those references to concerns about what happens on federal land and the impact it might have on private property. We wanted to make sure that those stated adopted. So we did not accept those suggestions. So really here's kind of the bottom line to this whole thing. We didn't have any groups, and we informed everybody, it was mentioned. 30 to 40 different groups knew about this, as well as public comment, the notifications. Everyone had their shot at this thing. Nobody showed up and says, this thing stinks. Or you guys, the county shouldn't be doing this. Or really, nobody even showed up and said, great job. Well, one person did. But what that sign kind of indicates is that folks have had a chance to look at this. Nothing, no red flags came up, nothing for them to motivate them to come and tell us that this thing is not a good idea. And so the three major objectives to this, the three major parts of this, nobody really commented on. And those three parts are the first part with regard to the whole purpose of putting this together, having a dialogue with the federal government. Nobody objected to that. Nobody objected to the whole notion of a cooperating agency status. No one objected to the whole idea of a consistency review as it's outlined in there. One concern that came up is that someone's expressed that if it's the county's going to get involved in all the NEPA actions, that it could burden the Planning and Zoning Commission, or it could burden the county commissioners. Nobody else who's developed this plan has ever had that problem because you get to choose as to what you want to be a cooperating agency on, not the federal government. So you can pick and choose your battles, and you can pick and choose how busy you want to get, and that's entirely in your hands. The second part of it are the priority uses, that we have in the second section of this document. The priority uses ag, air quality, climate change, recreation, renewable energy, water, and wildlife. Nobody questioned those. Nobody came forward and said, those aren't a priority for Albany County. General acceptance. And likewise, those that are in the following chapter that are worth mentioning but aren't priorities, nobody complained about that list either. And finally, nobody called into question whether or not it's a balanced document. I think the fact and the emphasis on balance of taking all these priorities and realizing that sometimes they're going to come in conflict with each other and that we need to be balanced, and that it's the desire of Albany County that these priorities remain priorities, that they're important to our folks, and that we need to have this balanced approach. That's throughout this document. Nobody came and questioned it. So it's pretty much intact. You can work it any way that you want to. You can get into it and fiddle with the details. It's pretty straightforward condition right now, and do whatever you want to with it, obviously.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, thanks.
And Laura and Bonnie, thank you. You made a document that was fairly unwieldy, really easy to access. So thank you, and David, thank you for that too. Commissioners, any questions or
A
any
few couple
ideas?
questions.
Sure, go ahead.
To begin with, I want to really thank the steering committee. You guys did a really good job improving on the original draft. It's a much better draft. And I thank you for all the many hours you guys all put in. It's great. I also want to commend you guys along with the public for the comments that they provided as well. I think it's fair to say that there was plenty of opportunity to have input with this document. And I think more than anything, we have to remember that this document serves as, for us, the county, a place at the table when it comes to whatever might be proposed down the line. So I think that's critical, and I think this document allows that for us. So thank you again for all the hard work. I really appreciate it, David, Mara, and Mike, Bonnie online, and then everyone else who was involved with this as well. I do have one question. The approach to the order. It was stated that it clearly states it's alphabetized as opposed to any priority. Can you give reasoning for this? Why did we decide not? Was it going to be too much of an argument if recreation looked like priority over agricultural? Can you sort of make that clearer to me why you chose for alphabetized?
Mike, do you want to help with that? I mean, I think we just thought we're not really putting anything
Emphasis on
anything other than when you get to the chapters, you see there's more like recreation. I think it was just an easy way to do it. It made it nice and clean.
Okay, I did see that there was public comment on that approach.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Ibarra, I think the other thing was on, and I'm just speaking for myself, obviously, as I was before, but I think it occurred to several of us that we were already making some decisions and going between group 1 and group 2. And we didn't want it to become any more arbitrary than that. In other words, we didn't want to be in the position of saying recreation is going to be more important than agriculture, or agriculture is going to be more important than water quality and resources. They're all important. They have their advocates here in the county, and we wanted to respect all of them by providing them with that kind of sort of equal treatment and not having the footprint or the fingerprints of the steering committee on it.
Okay, thank you. I think I might have read a statement, and correct me if I didn't, or set me straight. Was there something included about corner crossing?
I don't think so. I don't think we got into that.
I'm not sure. I think I
I mean,
would
we can.
support having some kind of statement on how we approach this, or what we believe as a county, how much importance we might want to put into corner crossing, or have at least some kind of statement there. I couldn't remember if I saw something.
There's nothing that comes up when I search it.
Okay.
That's interesting.
That's it for me as far as questions. If you
Okay.
can answer that, if anybody has a little bit of insight as to why that might not have been included. I know it's a very controversial issue right now, and I think it might be something that will continually be until it's settled. So I don't know if maybe we should have some kind of statement in there.
Well, and maybe we want to wait to see what the courts say before we put something in there. Because that way we'll get some kind of a clarification on what the law says. I mean, right now it's just a discussion. It's an issue. It's obviously Carbon County. It's kind of a big issue. But I think that's more of a legal question than a policy question. But I don't know. I mean, that's.
Junior, would be your approach?
I would agree with David, and I think because that is all so new right now, that decision just came out. I'm not sure if there's any appeals going on. I would wait. My advice would be to wait to see how the courts handle it from a legal perspective.
Thank you. I'm fine. That's what.
Thanks, Commissioner Richardson.
Well, I just want to thank everyone who worked on this. You guys did a great job. And I actually like that it was broad and then got narrowed down, because it's harder to discover and add what's missing, than it is to pare it down. So maybe it could seem like, I hope that the that the steering committee didn't feel like that this commission was too critical. It was basically, you guys gave us all the information and then said, here, at least that's how I took it, you know, and then you did a great job sort of simplifying it. So I appreciate that. And I think that this is something that's workable. I don't think that it's perfect, but it's my own opinion that maybe if we keep trying to work on it, like we're getting to the point of diminishing return, it could get wonky and weird. I do like that the things that we want to be considered aren't prioritized, and the reason is because this is kind of it serves as the basis for what the things we want to discuss with federal agencies. And so I'm imagining in my mind that if you had somebody who was going to go out there by Quayle Dome and, you know, drill a work, you know, run an oil rig on a piece of federal land, the conversation might be different as to what priorities fit in there, you know, or what elements to consider as opposed to some completely other project, like what roads to keep open or the motorized or not motorized plan in the forest or whatever. So I like that none of those are prioritized, because they kind of say, hey, these are the things we want to discuss, but I'm going to guess that the recipe on every issue is going to be a little bit different. So I like that we don't, if you say what the high priority is and what the low priority is, then maybe we forget to get to that thing or something. So I like that. Yeah, so it's good. And I actually think that the corner crossing, that's fun, but I think that it's the federal land is open for use, and private land blocks it often if you don't have access across the private land. So I don't know if the feds, I think that that's kind of a state law issue. You know, they can't say state of Wyoming, you have to allow corner shutter. It's like you can access federal land however you can legally, you know, because they don't really shut you out unless there's special rules like habitat management or this, you know, or something, you know. So to me, it would be fun to, you know, to comment on that, but I actually don't think that will ever be a sticking point with the feds. I think it'll be a sticking point with the state. And so I like it. I like it's, I don't think that it's missing things. I don't think it overstates any issue, or understates any. I think it's pretty balanced. I don't think it's perfect, but I don't think it has to be. It just somebody has to be able to see that and understand that this is what we want to discuss at the policy level when the feds are going to consider projects on, you know, policies on federal land. And I think it will work to do that. So I'm happy with it. I'm ready to go.
Well, I do, it's such an improvement from the first one we saw. It's night and day, quite honestly. But there still is on page 35 error reference source not found, right? We can't, that's not right. It's not
We went
restaurant
through
quality.
it.
There's not a verb in a couple of the pages, right? There's a should, there's a missing should. I wonder about some of the citations about, you know, reservoirs and dams, where that scientific basis is for that. And I do believe this is that, I believe the Rollins corner crossing is being moved to federal court, if I wasn't mistaken, but that is a federal issue. And so we don't have to say you can corner cross, but we might want to pursue all legal avenues to allow access to public lands, right? And I think that's an important statement, and I think it's supported by overwhelming majorities of Albany County residents and also the state of Wyoming residents. So I think we are 99% of the way there. And I know this might just be maybe one more time, but I'd like to just kick it out one more time for the public and see if we can get a little bit more feedback before we wrap it up and call it good. Your thought on that, David, and I'll talk with these guys, the steering committee. What's your thought on that? Is that a bridge too far?
We can do that. That's not a problem with me. Would you, I guess, how would you like to do that if we went forward? Just publicize it for the, like our next meeting or a couple meetings later or something like that? Or?
Yeah, and then this 30 days or whatever, 45 days or whatever our standard procedure is. And then if we don't get any comments, we don't get any comments.
Sure.
I will give you my comments in an email, right? It says, hey, I found this, and this needs to should, or whatever.
Yeah.
But most of them are a little bit ticky-tack. But I think you want to prepare a public document that's
Making sure you have all the missing parts that I had pointed out in that document, a cleaner document than what we have, or a more updated document.
Yeah. Joe's actually been going through it and finding all those. But I think if he does that and we get your information, then we can get it all put together and then, because I'm sure Joe can miss stuff, I can miss stuff.
Right. So, yeah, he does. Steering committee, would you take any offense to that action at all? And this doesn't sign you on to going over the public comments anymore, right? If you want to, great. If you don't want to, you have done yeoman's work, and it's really appreciated. So I'm hopeful that from here, we can take it, but if you would like to take it, we'd love to have you because you have the most knowledge about it after the 30 days is done.
Mr. Chairman, again, just speaking for myself, I'll be glad to remain involved and offer whatever thoughts that may be helpful. Just one suggestion for the consideration of the commission. If you have specific policies on your mind, for instance, corner jumping, corner crossings, and you have a specific stance on that would be good to know. So to make sure it gets into the document. Because it's a complicated issue right now, and so it would be good when we go back out to the public that they know where you're coming from, so they have an opportunity to comment on it. And that's obviously not a policy decision you want the steering committee to make. That's something that you guys.
Yeah, I agree. Maura?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I'm all for more public comment. And when you compare the amount of public comment we were able to include compared to the comprehensive plan, the robustness of the Albany County Comprehensive Plan, it's lacking that way. So another round of comment is great. And I'm wondering if there's a way, I don't know what resources you have, if there's a way to put out a QR code like you're doing at Farmers Market for the growth plan, if there's a way to publicize it at Farmers Market. If you're only doing 30 days, that'll just give you a couple rounds there, but yeah, the more feedback, the better. But I do think Mike really laid it out that there hasn't been, people aghast at the product. It's generally well received, and fine tuning it now would be all better.
Nor am I aghast. I don't want to get that general impression at all, right? But I would like to have a bit more comment, quite honestly.
Just a discussion for us. I'm not sure which way I lean. Initially, I was a little reluctant to include in this round again for public comment some of the questions or concerns that are already there in the appendix as far as public comments provided already. If we wanted to just start it with a clean slate, knowing that we have that, or if we should include those so those aren't repeated. I want you guys' take on this, because a part of me feels like I don't want those in there specifically, because I don't know, the public will be a little adverse to some of the people who have made the comments before.
Not the comment itself, but the person making the
Correct.
comment.
Well, even in the back, that whatever appendix C, whatever it was, that actually gave the public comment. Question, whether it was a question or just a comment. I'm wondering, should that be included this time around, or should it not that part being taken out. I'd like to hear both of you guys.
Sure, sure.
What do I think? I think that that the commission or the steering committee, whoever would consider the comments, and it probably should be us. Like my comments before, I figured that this edits, the final edit would still get done. But from my perspective, the substance of it is adequate, right? So I understand what, like what you guys were saying about the, just the little edits to clean it up. So with respect to that question, I think that the steering committee or this commission can separate and sort of understand the context that comments are made in. So I don't know if it matters if, it sounds like you have some concern that it'll turn into like one of those, like a Twitter thread where people start talking, arguing back and forth about whatever. But from my perspective, I think that even we can sort through that. You don't really want people driving each other nuts, but from our perspective, I just don't see
I
it
don't
being
want there to be a tax.
right.
That I saw happening with, for instance, LPAC, the Public Art Coalition, when it was opened up for discussion on a recent edition of art in the community. Instead of sticking to the art, they started attacking each other. So
Sure. I would guess that in this situation, that won't happen because this isn't local policy as much as sort of like outlining the basis for the discussion with the feds on their policies on their land in this county. So, and in that context, the Forest Service and the BLM are going to kind of do what they do,
and I know that
we just want to state how we want to interact with what they do. So maybe it's different than even say a comprehensive plan where you're saying this is the basis that we would use to make laws about what you can do with your land. That's a whole different discussion than the conversation about federal land. You know what I mean? Just because. So I'm okay either way. I don't know that
and I'm confident that the steering committee can weed out those that are just repetition of comments or questions that were submitted earlier that you already noted and made the changes. I was just wondering if it could go that way or if it limited people commenting. I don't know.
Yeah, I say we just send out the plan,
Okay.
and not with the comments. Those are already worked into this plan. And so if people want to re-comment something that's already been commented, that'll be easy for us to, discuss. But the plan should stand on its own.
Okay, so it shouldn't be included in the.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
And then if people make the same comment over again. But
And I agree what I think the chair said, and that is, I guess if we were gonna mention access, and we probably have, there's places in there where access is mentioned. So if we were thinking about it with respect to being able to corner jump, like I like the idea of corner jumping. I don't, people, private landowners who want to block people out of public land annoy me, and actually annoy a lot of land guys, and they buy land on purpose to do that. And then you got the corner thing, and you just, it just annoys me. But I guess if we could sort of reevaluate the statement about maybe the sort of our policy desire or the discussions that we would want to have with the feds, that we want people to be able to have the best and most access to public lands. And that isn't necessarily confined to corner jumping. It can have to do with, how many roads they close or whether they keep logging roads open or you know, that fits into the motorized and non-motorized plans on federal land and stuff. So I don't know that I like the more general approach that I think you were advocating for, but I don't want to speak for it.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah, Maura, please.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, just one thing you should know, those of us who were in public meetings sort of promised to the public that they would see their comments responded to.
Okay.
Well, I guess they can right now. You can go online and see what was presented to you. So I guess you could make the writers anonymous and just leave it as this is a comment received. Right now, I can't remember the names. These were the same people who were at the public meetings as well. So we heard in public from these people and then saw their letters. And I guess now it would be good to know if they think we adequately addressed their concerns to the best of our ability in trying to keep that big non-prescribed balance that I think you recognize we were shooting for. So just to add that to your consideration that we, at some point, the public, I mean, like I said, I guess they can go online and search it. Right now, they can find how we responded to things.
Right. And David blocked out any names except for in some of the letters that's actually embedded in the letter as well. They're saying,
right.
I'm Joe Blow, and even though it might have been blackened up
So
above
maybe a
where it
little
said
more-
from or
a little more
sincerely.
redaction.
It was, yeah, but in some instances, it was embedded in the actual letter, so it was there anyway.
The consultant did that. I made a blanket,
Okay.
so, but I didn't notice that as well.
Well, and interestingly, of course, we take all the comments into consideration. That's what helps you get context and perspective, right? I think that sometimes, in my experience in this job, sometimes people think that you haven't incorporated or understood or responded to what their concern if they don't get the outcome that they want, right? So, you know, sometimes all of this stuff goes in, and if somebody says, hey, wait a minute, I don't see the response in this document, I don't see the sort of where I nudged it. You know, it's a policy document made, but ultimately the elected officials are responsible for it. So I don't necessarily think we have to satisfy everyone. I don't think it's possible for everyone to see necessarily that or understand the consideration that was given to their comment, you know, or their ideas, because they might not have quite hit the mark when it came to where the steering committee and this commission wants to go with the document. Do you know what I'm saying? So you guys made that promise, but I don't think that if I were the commenter, I would probably be understanding enough to know that, you know, that I don't probably deserve any more consideration than anyone else. You know what I mean?
David, is it available to black out the names of people? You know, I see there's a table that I assume is easy, right? It's got people's names on the left-hand side. And then those would have the name embedded in the letter. Could we look through that?
Sure, yeah, we can do that.
Black those out and then just keep them in the packet. I love the QR code. I'm learning more about QR codes every day. And so that would be a really interesting way to keep people's name out of it, keep their comment in it. Okay. And then they could see that their comment was actually received. If you guys didn't write back and say, we received your comment, we considered it. I'm not sure what the process was. But that way they could go into the document and say, oh, yeah, they did have my comment on road issues or whatever it is.
Sure.
Is that possible, commissioners? Is that a reasonable approach?
Yes.
Okay, and then can we put it out there for like 45 days or whatever our normal, what our public comment periods are? Are they 30 or 45?
Depends on what we're doing.
Oh, okay.
Like regulations are 45, but like plans and things are usually 30 or actually it's 30 before planning. So,
Yeah.
I don't know
We
if
can do
we need
it. I think-
45. I think we've had ample opportunity.
Okay.
I think 30's good.
30, are you all right with that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see these these edits as even substantive. I think that we could set the time, because this isn't a statutory thing. It's just like, we want to send it, we want to clean it up a little bit and send it out for another hour. So that if somebody was on vacation, they could come home and dig into it.
So let's put it on the agenda. We'll give you our comments between now and then, next Tuesday, for this plan, like where we found edits that need to be made.
Okay.
And then send it out on the next meeting, publicize it on the next meeting.
Okay.
Because I don't want to have a document that we want to change, if that's indeed what we want to change substantively, that the public doesn't see our changes that we're recommending. Now, we might not have recommended changes, right? I might just say, hey, could you clean up that last citation? No big deal. But I also might say, I hate this part, or I love this part. We need more of this, right? I don't know.
All right, so I'll put it on the next agenda for you guys to provide comments, and then we'll send it out to the public after that.
Yep. Bonnie, I haven't heard from you. Would you like to comment? You don't have to if you don't want to.
She's got to find the unmute button.
I think can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Okay. I think it's important that it goes back in front of the public again and gets everything that anybody could possibly see worked out. So I'm happy with the plan that you have right now.
Super. Do we need we don't need commission action on this. We don't need to table it. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all. I really do appreciate it. This plan has come a long, long way. Item 9, present for approval memorandum of agreement between the Albany County and the Federal Emergency Management Agency Integrated Public Alert Warning System (IPAWS) Program Management Office regarding the use of Albany County interoperable systems and IPAWS open platform for emergency networks. IPAWS open. Sheriff Appalachians. Thank you. Good morning. Good evening.
Evening, commissioners. This is pretty simple. It's just an MOU between us, FEMA, Wyoming Department of Homeland Security, to use that integrated public alert warning system that we have already integrated through EMA, our dispatch, and then all of FEMA and Homeland Security's interoperability communications as well.
Commissioners, any questions? Sure. I entertain a motion for item 9 if there are any questions.
I move that we approve item 9 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
It sounds like the sort of the federal version of Wyoming.
Not quite. It's more of the federal version of either your weather public alert, weather, special weather public statements, any other type of public safety security alert that we needed to get out in mass, whether that's interoperable, whether that's text messaging systems, reverse 911,
Gotcha.
any of the Amber alerts.
It's not interagency communication. It's communication with the public.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? So moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 10, present for approval, purchase of Tech 84 body scanner for the Albany County Detention Center is about $155,500 to be paid from 2018 spent funds. Sheriff Appalachian.
Yes, in your packets, you guys will see quote sole source letter. I also emailed you guys the memo to explain the sole source letter a little bit more for the purchase of body scanner within our detention center. The reason for the purchase is that we're having more and more individuals trying to bring in either illegal narcotics, contraband within our detention center, and they're hiding it in places that we can't always physically get to. And so the body scanner will help us recognize that prior to introduction into our facility.
They're hiding in places you don't want to look.
That too.
Hey, Sheriff, this isn't something that's permanently fastened to the floor or the wall or something. It can be moved.
No, it can be moved. But the reason for the sole source letter is that we're pretty limited on the space that we have at the detention center to put a body scanner in there. And so the place where we're gonna put it in our booking area, which like I said is fairly small. This machine specifically meets the space requirements that we have, and then because it's using an X-ray system, it's pretty unique in that system where it keeps all of the radiation within its machine right there, because we will be next to nurse's office and some other holding cells. So when we were looking for items, we wanted to make sure that we can keep everything in one spot, keep everything safe, but be able to use the machine as intended. If you've seen other X-ray body scanners, for example, if you guys have ever been in the airport and you go through TSA, you've seen those body scanners. They're huge. They're out away from people to keep people back because of the X-ray machine that you go through there as well. So this one's a much smaller footprint. This is much more limited in terms of the radiation that it keeps on for. So that's the reason why we're looking for this very specific model, because we have some very restricted space requirements in there with everything else that we have. So this one will be able within our facility if we end up changing the layout, but it'll be able to come through all of our doors and be set up in a place where we can utilize it for.
Sure. Will this require specific training, and will everybody be trained in it?
Yes, it does require specific training, and everybody will be trained. That's part of the package as well, which you saw. So that includes equipment, shipping. We paid a little bit extra for warranty on it. It only comes with a 1-year warranty, go into a 3-year warranty. And then the consultant will come out and not only install, but then train all of our deputies on how to use the machines.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm glad you can look without looking.
Well, it's when we find something that it thinks.
Maybe it'll have a deterrent effect.
We'll see. I doubt it. It's going to increase the number of search warrants.
Yeah, if this goes through, how long before you purchase and have it installed? So do you have an idea?
I have a consultant coming tomorrow to take all the measurements. We should have the purchase done before August 1st. Installation should be sometime within the first couple of weeks. So also almost immediately.
Okay. Okay, if there's no questions, I'd entertain a motion for item 10, please.
I move
that-
Go ahead.
I move that we approve the purchase of this Tech 84 body scanner for the Albany County Detention Center.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item 11, present for approval, grant agreement between the Wyoming Department of Health, Public Health Division, and Albany County to implement activities designed to prevent the use, misuse, or abuse of tobacco, alcohol, or controlled substances, and activities designed to prevent suicide from the executed contract date through June 30th, 2024, in amount not to exceed $438,780. Bailey, please.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
This is our agreement for our prevention grant. It is a 2-year grant. We are getting a little less funding than the past 2 years just because of where our population sits compared to other counties. So, but not much.
Sure, is any questions for Bailey? Entertain a motion for item 11 if there are no questions.
I move that we approve item 11 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 12, present for approval memorandum of understanding between Wyoming Department of Health, Public Health Division, and Albany County for the purpose of providing public health nursing services, home visitation services, children's special health program services, and other maternal and child health services to support Title V MCH block grant priorities from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2024, in amount not to exceed $314,260. Bailey.
I'm presenting for Kim because she's out of town right now. This is our Mch Tanf Grant. The total amount is split over 2 years. It does involve federal and state funding. And it holds one position currently. She's working on hiring a second position. Any questions?
Any questions? Entertain a motion for item 12, then, please.
I move that we approve item 12 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 13, present for approval, First Amendment to funding agreement between Albany County Board of Commissioners and Klein, Wyoming, Cathedral Home for Children's Extended Families, Greater Wyoming Big Brothers Big Sisters, and Interfaith Good Samaritan for the reallocation of TAMP CBI 2021-2022 grant funding for services provided between the date of the executed grant agreement and September 30th, 2022. Bailey.
Interfaith Good Samaritan reached out to me with the requirements of the TANF CPI grant and the ERAP funding that's out there currently. They are not able to use all their TANF CPI funds this year. We then put that out to the other three applicants, subawardees, to see if they could use those funds. So we were able to redistribute funds to Climb, Cathedral Home, and Big Brothers Big Sisters. So those three have increased funding and Interfaith has decreased funding this year.
Some of you had to go back somewhere.
No, luckily Josh let us know enough in advance that we were able to make those changes. So everybody else was able to spend those funds.
All right. Commissioners, any other questions?
That's just because you're that good. I know. and I'm not even trying to flatter you. Just an observation.
Entertain a motion for item 13.
I move that we approve item 13 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Thank you, Bailey.
Hearing and seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 14, present for approval agreement between the Board of Commissioners of the County of Albany, Wyoming, and Greater Wyoming Big Brothers Big Sisters for additional juvenile prevention and diversion services from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2024, an amount not to exceed $63,008. Bailey, please.
This agreement comes down from our Community Juvenile Service Board grant. We contract with Big Brothers Big Sisters to do our diversion services.
Commissioners, any questions for Bailey? Entertain a motion for item 14.
I move that we approve item 14.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
I have a question. What is that paid out? 1%?
No, that's our CJSE grant.
Oh, gotcha.
So it was, we did lose funding for that last year. The state legislature recently brought it back this session. So we were able to fund just a little bit for the first 6 months of the year. And then now we have the full 2-year agreement.
Okay, good.
So it'll probably be back in front of them again in 2
I had
years.
some stuff rattling around in the back corners of my brain that I couldn't pull out. It kept saying 404, file not found.
We did.
So I'm glad you had a file.
We did fund it. Was it an attorney? The attorney budget, Jennifer? Do you know? When we didn't have that grant.
I think it came out of 1%.
Okay, so yeah, I mean that's probably you're getting 1% because we did fund it out of there when we didn't have the grant. But the grant's back at this time. We're hoping to keep it. We'll just see how long we can keep it.
Okay.
And Bailey, do they get half of it this year, half of it next
Yep.
year?
They just invoice us monthly,
Oh, okay.
and we've done the math to figure out what.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 15, discuss Albany County nonprofit ARP tested application for Cathedral Home for Children. Bailey.
Last time you guys had talked about the other 3 applicants. Tonight we have Cathedral Home here to answer any questions you guys had because I believe you did have a few follow-up questions. So I'll let you guys ask it.
Okay, thank you. Nicole or Rachel or anybody? Good
My
evening.
whole crew.
Thank you. Well, thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. If you'd like to make a presentation, if not,
I don't have a presentation. I
Perfect.
did watch the prior meeting, and so I saw that there were a couple questions that came up. It seemed pretty specific to maybe DFS and what we're reimbursed, probably confusion around, this is a DFS issue, why am I coming to the county?
right.
So just here to answer questions. I have Mch Conrad is our CFO and Chief Financial Officer, and Rachel LeBeau, Development Director. So, and I'm Nicole Hauser, for the record, Executive Director.
All right, commissioners, any questions?
Immediately, I want to look at what I have.
So I guess my question was about DFS and the reimbursement rates. It was so surprising to me that they cut it in the middle of a pandemic. And then have not brought it back or made you guys whole or other entities whole because of that. Can you talk to me about what your correspondence with them is?
Yeah, so I think honestly, this goes back to joint appropriations and the lack of appropriating adequate money to youth and families and health services. So when the governor put forth budget cuts, DFS cut all providers, they cut foster family payments, they cut crisis center, group home, RTCs. I mean, they had to cut a lot based off of what they were required to do from joint appropriations and the governor. And it did. It came right at the time of COVID, at a time where we couldn't close. I couldn't reduce expenses. In fact, they increased, trying to keep staff going, obviously keeping the kids safe in all of our programs. So we received that cut, and our reimbursement rate with DFS hasn't increased in quite a few years, since 2012, I believe. I have my dates right off the top of my head. It used to be we would submit a cost report. There was a process. It's a separate company. All providers would do really detailed information. We provided a lot of that to you all in these numbers. And then there was a point where DFS would take that, all the providers, and come up with a rate. Under prior DFS leadership, they decided to no longer pay for that, no longer do it. And in my opinion, it was so they wouldn't have to see the very wide gap of cost versus reimbursement. So we were stagnant for many years, then received a cut. I will say we advocated really aggressively this last session through our state association, and did receive money put back into appropriations. So our rate starting July 1 is 180. Again, nowhere near what our costs are. So part of our request to the county for ARPA funds was really that rescue, like help us get out of what has been occurring for us and through that pandemic, and then ongoing. So I know there's been questions around the number of people that this will serve, and wanting to put all the numbers out there really clearly. It is an expensive service, but it's a critical service. And that's where those rates come into play. So does that kind of clear up the cost and the rates? So it was at 170 we got cut. We got 3% reinstated, and then we got another 3% added on that started July 1. So we're at 180 now for DFS. And no increases for Medicaid. So we bill to Department of Health for the therapy that we provide. And those rates, as I provided those documents, have been cut drastically. You can ask any provider that does Medicaid reimbursement, and you'll know that that's the case. So
Has the state, for instance, they had a bunch of ARPA money available to them in the billions of dollars. They made it such that you can apply for grants for your work through ARPA or not?
we have the ability to apply for capital construction. If you've been out to see Cathedral Home, we have beautiful space. We have lots of buildings. We are looking to maybe, and this is going to come out and maybe seem like it's based off a comment I said before, but maybe look at remodeling some bathrooms. Funny how the tides turn there with some of that money. We will be getting staff retention dollars, which are payments that go directly to the employees. There's some stipulations around that. Outside of that, we haven't been able to access, even at the start of the pandemic, we were that group that was forgotten about. And that's a big point of why we came to the county, one, wanting to expand services, but also then to ask for help for the Albany County youth that we serve in our other program.
And Nicole, aside from the 3% that you we recently heard that you're going to be getting, you don't anticipate any further from the state or?
No, we're gonna push hard. We, in our association, we're continuing to put together all of our huge gaps of cost across the state, and just getting that information out there, working really hard. You know, we work with other states and we receive cost of living increases to the provider rates, and that doesn't happen for us. So it's an uphill battle for sure. It's an uphill battle.
Are you having to increase your reimbursements from out of state? Is that impacting that side as far as, I know that you maintain your losses, but by dealing with that, you've increased your rates for out of state services.
So yes, they have, just as a state, they are like, here's what we're gonna pay you. So we're in a unique position where we can't set our rate. I can't say, hey, here's my cost. This is what you should pay me. Really kind of at the mercy of government to set that. But our out-of-state partners do reimburse much closer to our cost. So that helps cover our losses with Wyoming youth. And we're committed to Wyoming youth. We don't turn them away. We don't say no because of that, so.
And your private funding doesn't come close to compensating for all this loss.
No, I mean, I give major props to Rachel and her team. They are working tirelessly to help shorten that gap. That gap grows every year for us, right? So we've had to increase wages, as you all understand the staffing crisis. And we want to continue to be sustainable, provide people livable wages. And it's hard to do. It's really hard to do. So lots of grants, lots of private, try to get private dollars without saturating Albany County. You know, it's just only so much here.
Thank you.
And then just explain to me a little bit about like what it costs for a child there that is in a tough spot, that might need all of your services. What do you break that out on a yearly cost? Because I'll have to tell you, you know, with 9 people for a large amount of money, right? It's hard to justify if you don't know. So maybe you can be helpful.
Sure. So residential treatment is intensive. So we're providing 24/7 supervision, and not just watching the kids, but interacting, providing them treatment. We also have licensed master level or higher clinicians. So the youth receive minimum weekly, I say minimum because it's quite frequent, individual therapy, family therapy. They're in group therapy anywhere from 1 to 3 hours a day. We also have a certified school, an accredited school. So we have teachers that are in their content area. So the kids go to a certified school during the day. We provide healthcare. We have a nurse. We have a psychiatrist. We really work to provide services that wrap around all of the children. And then we continue with them after they leave Cathedral Home. So ensuring that their family has what they need. And that all comes with staff costs. We have a staffing ratio that is mandated by the state of Wyoming through licensing requirements. It's 1 staff to 6 youth during the day, 1 to 10 at night. We work hard to be 1 to 4, 1 to 6, because we are working with kids that have pretty high intensive needs. So that's our greatest cost is our staff. We employ as an agency, we have 130, 127 payroll.
Somewhere around.
127 employees. We should be at 140. So we are spending a lot of overtime. It's not really what you were, is that what you were trying to get at?
Yeah,
You want me to
like,
break down the numbers?
well, not, like what would one kid who was in real trouble cost you equivalently a year? Was it 40,000 to take care of it? Was it 30,000? You have an idea? Okay.
Well, that's almost like the budget divided by the number of kids. You know, that's kind of the question you ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're looking at 233,000.
Per child.
Yeah, based on that,
Yeah.
the cost per day.
And then are you able to, it's been my understanding, a long time ago, I worked out there as a youth worker. And it seemed like Cathedral Home then was maybe the last stop before somebody was in to the justice system. Is that still the case? And then if that is still the case, what are the odds of the person after they see you guys, them going back to the justice system?
Sure. So I really wish we were the last stop. What we see, unfortunately, is kids navigating the system multiple stops. And I think that's a downfall of the system. It's built that you have to fail so many times in order to get the level of care you need, instead of just like, hey, Johnny needs this now. And not Johnny's had 17 tickets, so now Johnny gets it. Like, so I think that's part of the issue where we see kids kind of go in and out.
Wasteful. That's wasteful.
It's hard. It's really hard. What was the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
If people come, what success rate
yes.
do you guys have? With
So we do. We track that. We track youth after a year, if they've completed their program with us, a year after their completion date. If they haven't entered the same level of care or higher, we track that number. Our last year's number was 90%. Don't go into a higher level or same level of care. Years prior, it does hang around 85%, 84, 85%, pretty consistent there. So it works. I mean, we have the data and the proof to know that when kids get the care that they need, when they get it when they need it, it works. We do see kids though that, yeah, it's complicated. They get pulled. Maybe too many interactions with law enforcement where, you know, the system's hands are tied in a way. But if they complete our program, if they complete the program with us, they have a really high chance of being successful and not entering another level of care, I should say.
Your staff, you're definitely down in staff. What's the average time of years that somebody stays with you in direct, somebody who's not administrative, but have no direct contact with?
Like our front line?
Yeah.
A year. We have a very high turnover rate, a year.
And what do you attribute that to?
It's a really tough job. It's a really tough job. It's a really rewarding job. I don't think you see there's not an instant gratification until you kind of are with a kid for long enough. We hire a lot of college kids. I'm so grateful to be in a college town. I'll tell you what, like hearing, you know, my colleagues across the state. So we anticipate, you know, if we got 2 years out of an employee at that front line, that's great. And we kind of, that graduation cycle is what we base off of them.
Most of them are graduating or they just get burnt out and they.
I think it's a combo. We have a lot of, our number one reason is relocation for leaving the job. You know, when we interview, we ask people to give a year commitment just for that relationship building with the youth. But we all know, like, you can say yes and mean it and then things happen. So, but it's hard. It's hard to understand trauma when it's coming out in verbal or in aggressive ways. And I think it takes a lot. Right, Pete?
It does. Yeah. It's difficult when you're that age to be mature. Some things that
What was that sign?
you might not want to handle, you know, for somebody you don't understand the background. But, you know, I'm sure it still exists that the youth workers are a hands-off policy, which can be some frustrating, but very limited. So it makes it difficult, right? When you're 24 to be spit on, right? And by somebody who might be 12. And deal with that, right? It doesn't happen all the time, but you know, there are days that are hard. You guys all know those things.
You have to have a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard to not take it personal, right? We talked a lot about with our staff that like this isn't about you. This is deep trauma that they're trying to work through. And but you care about the kiddos and you build a relationship. And so then it does feel really personal. And I think that's probably one of the hardest parts is I have a relationship with you. Why are you calling me those names? But it's not about that. It's deeper, really hard stuff.
So Nicole, you're still asking for the original amount, even though you recently got some money from Interface, Giving Back reallocation.
That's a whole different program.
Oh, okay.
It's a completely different program. It's like apples to oranges.
Oh, okay.
But you guys did already approve the 150 for the counseling hours. So just.
Yeah, so I didn't come, I mean, we're willing to take anything, of course. Understand too the decision that you guys have before you. But just wanted to continue to educate and provide information. We have nothing to hide. We want to be transparent, so.
And there were two other requests, I believe. There was one looking back. And could you refresh me with the amount of that? I didn't bring it with me today.
I'm gonna refer to Nicole because my numbers have gotten all mixed up.
I hear you.
We're both with Nicole, please, so the.
Let me see what I got here. They're scrambling for me.
Chad's got it.
Oh,
I got it.
you?
Doesn't want to
Yeah.
jump
There you
over.
go.
Oh, hey.
Thanks,
So
Chad.
looking back.
Yeah.
It was March 2021 to March 2022. 109,000. Our cost per day at that time was lower than it is looking forward, or like current and then looking forward, it actually went up. So, from April 2022 to December 2023, it's 508,000. Total of 617.
And that second part is that projection piece, right? Projecting number of youth served. So, but the prior is actual youth served from Albany County.
And so these two numbers include the youth from Albany County, not from some other county.
These are only Albany County youth numbers.
And can you give me the numbers, but how many kids was that looking back, or approximately, and how many? Eight,
Yeah.
and then that's 8 looking forward to.
Well, I think we're looking at 3 looking forward.
And that's through 2023.
And in 2023.
We pulled it off of historical trend data with Albany County youth.
Commissioners, any other questions? Maybe, do you have anything to add? All right. Nicole, thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Chad. We appreciate you being here. Your pleasure, Commissioners. Is this a discussion?
It is labeled as a discussion item. However, at the last meeting, the other one was labeled as a discussion item as well.
Oh,
And
we
you guys
made
still,
Decision.
And just one final question, and I hate to break it into you like this, but when this goes away, right, ARPA is done for us, when this is done, 24, we have to expend the money, or detailed money that has to be expended by 26, probably never gonna get it again. What do you do after that, right? What do you do with the 500,000 moving forward, that if we were to fund that, the shortfall?
She's nodding her head because she's the director of development.
It's gonna be busy.
That's what I think about all the time.
Yeah. It really is our continued advocacy with the state, at that level, our rates have to meet the cost. I mean, that every business around town can raise their rates because of supply costs and staffing costs, but yet we can't. And so it's just that continued advocacy, and we're just gonna keep pushing. Development, we'll just keep it. I mean, we haven't presented a balanced budget to our board of directors in my tenure, and that's been 9 years, so lucky I'm still here. In the sense of it just happens. It happens constantly for us. So We've been around since 1910. We're gonna make it work. I'm gonna keep asking for help.
Right.
Okay.
It's interesting that the legislature wants to use ARPA money to build things. So to build stuff rather than provide services. It's kind of a thing. You know what I mean? Whether it's the university or whatever, it's a trend. It's an approach and mentality that I find to be interesting.
Yeah, that's, you can't help a kid with a building entirely. Right? More often you need a person in that building to be helpful to that person. The recurring costs, and nobody likes recurring costs, I guess.
Well, they can name a building after you if you're in the JAC, but they can't name an instructor after you. Or
I would.
clinician.
If they asked, I would.
Any ideas, commissioners?
I will say that I originally, I don't know why, maybe I wasn't absorbing the information properly, but I thought that it was sort of a backfill or a fill for kids from all over Wyoming. For whatever reason, I didn't understand that this was Albany County only. And that makes me consider it in a different light. I think that there's some value in Albany County kids being able to be placed in Albany County. You know, if you have lots of people in these situations, kids wind up somewhere else. You have California kids here and there. It's a long way from home. There's cultural things and all kinds of things that probably make it hard for them. So I like that it's here, and that Albany County kids can stay here because it's pretty unique, a unique model that you have, and it's successful, you know, compared to, I don't know how you guys stack up against other people in your business, but yeah. You know, so I don't know. I would like to hear what Pete and Sue have to say. And I also am curious how much of a total ARPA obligation, you know, or our total ARPA funding is still available before this.
That's a good question, because there are programs in the works that have been designated, but I think that we have about half of it remaining, maybe a little bit more if, nope.
Nope.
Okay.
Wait 1 second.
Well, if we can get close.
Okay, with everything you guys have funded so far or approved funding for so far, we have $1,724,937.41 remaining.
I'm close, so less than a quarter remaining.
Yeah.
And so Chad, I guess this question is for you. If from 321 to 322, 8 kids for $109,000, that was like $13,265 per kid. Going forward for a year, and I call it a year and 3 quarters. For 3 kids, that number, if we were to use 13,265, that number instead of 508,000 would be like 71,000. What's the difference?
It's the cost per day numbers from different periods of time.
Okay.
We're looking over, it's almost 3 years, 2021 to 2023. So we have a fiscal year, we'll have a different cost per day that's factored into this. So like I did mention this earlier that prior to March 2022, our cost per day was lower, but now it's much higher. And based on the way we're operating right now, we expect it to be about similar to what where we were in like 2021, 2022. And then we use that number to project out to the rest of 2023.
So let me be clear again. So you're asking for 109 plus 109.8 for previous years to catch up, and then going forward another 508,000.
Yeah. Keep in mind that 508 is like almost 2 years. 109 is like almost.
Can you explain the factors that go into such a dramatic increase in cost per day?
Go up to the podium, sir.
Okay.
This is his favorite.
Like,
Well, I know it depends on the number of kids we serve in the program. In a particular year, and we have like fixed costs, right? Variable costs. So those fixed costs are going to be there no matter how many kids we serve. The variable costs, they'll fall in line like the staffing and other, supplies for the kids, activities. What happens, like at the beginning of this pandemic, we had trouble bringing kids in, or they're kind of keeping them where they were. So that brought our population down. Now, where we're at now, we just can't get the staffing to bring in more kids. So part of the solution to this gap is really to serve more kids. And we just got to get more of that draft line staff to be able to do that. That's what we're fighting with right now. So we have a pretty good waiting list, as far as I know, as far as clients to come in.
So you would take them, but you don't have the staff to.
That's where we're at right now. Yeah.
Well, that might be sort of the answer to the chairman's question, which is what happens after, the money goes away. The idea, I think, so I'm a businessman. To me, it's like being undercapitalized. Grow. And if you don't have any seed money, you can't grow. Like you can't sell coffee if you can't buy cups or whatever. You know what I mean? So you have to bring the staffing on before you can bring the kids on, and you have to train them and get them into the process. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah.
Is that what this would get used for? In a sense.
Yeah, we are increasing our direct line staff wages. We just did that.
Well, and even numbers, right? Even numbers of staff, because to take more placements, you have to have more staff.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, is try to bring it in.
So if you have no cash, you can't hire somebody with no cash. Yeah, is that basically where you're at?
I wouldn't say you don't have any cash.
Well, you have an operating, but
We have a,
when you project it out, you're cash poor. I think that I've heard that enough to understand that.
yeah.
I'm not picking on you.
Our operations are not where they need to be, but we have the ability to raise funds through donations and things like that supplement.
But you don't have enough in reserve to spool up. And then there's a delay between your fixed costs are your fixed costs, but there's a delay between when you provide the service and when you get the payment. So you have to have enough operating cash to be able to roll. And probably you have to maybe even limit how many Wyoming placements or Albany County placements you take, because the reimbursement's so low, and you have to have ratios of placements from other states that pay for real, so that you can have a balanced fiscal approach. In other words, the Wyoming kids are getting subsidized in a certain sense, by kids from other jurisdictions.
That's absolutely correct. And I know Nicole and our board, They're not gonna let us pick and choose which kids based on how much they pay.
No, you can't do that. But I mean,
But it is supplemented from out of state.
sure.
And we do have reserves too.
How many, what's the total number of beds out there? Like what's the max you can put in Cathedral Home as far as numbers before you have to build more buildings? Before you have to, do capital construction.
Cool, do you want to hit that?
I was like, what are you gonna say, Chad? We're licensed for 79 beds. We won't ever put 79 kids. 50, 60 would be at our capacity. And that is really because of the high needs of youth that we're seeing, to ensure that they get the level of care that they deserve. So
there's a sweet spot in there with staffing and
50 kids.
a sweet spot with staffing and kids where you're getting the best care and you're operating the most efficiently. So your daily cost per head is the lowest. If you try to go beyond that, it starts stressing.
Yeah, that diminishing returns.
Yeah. Yep.
So Jen, I just did a quick, so it's 8 for 109, it's about 13,265 per kid for the year. So if I double that to 25,000 per kid for the going forward for 3 kids and added 1.75 to that, I got multiplied 1.75 because it's more than a year from 422 to 1223. I got 131,250. Tell me where I'm missing. That's a big span between 508 and 131, and I've doubled per kid.
Well, okay, let me share this with you. Okay. Our cost per day, for example, room and board, 2021, 267 a day. And our cost per day for 2022, and this is based off our latest cost report for our last fiscal year, it jumped up from 267 to 375. So that's a significant increase. And it's mainly due to the number of kids we serve, because that's really impacted that number. So when you use those numbers, so you can't use the prior 2 numbers, because they're different, right? But now the numbers are higher. So once we get 40 to 50 kids in the program, average that, we'll be flush. So yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
How many kids are out there now?
Say 33.
So to the chair's point, to Pete's point, you're talking about a daily room and board rate increase of 50%, but you're sort of asking for 400%, right? You're not. He is.
Yeah. So I just arbitrarily, because I needed something to figure out per kid per year, Chad. And so I just looked back at the 109 and it was for 8 kids, and hopefully those numbers are correct. Was that for 8 kids? Or did I just make that
I think
up?
we're looking at 8 kids for this whole span.
Okay.
Or maybe
With 8 kids that you responded to my question as far as the previous deficit of 100, 109.
8 is total.
it is
Right.
total.
And then going forward was an additional 3.
3.
Oh, gotcha. So
And the average room and board you gave from March 2021 to March 2022 was 321.
Fiscal years timeframe.
So you got to staff up and hit the sweet spot so that you're not spreading fixed costs over half the population that you need to serve.
Commissioners, do you need any more information?
No, information.
I try to split the baby here is the difficult one.
I want to help out with at least the 109,000 unit itself, because you're behind on that and you're never going to catch up if you don't get assistance, at least to bring you up to 322. So I'd like to help out with at least that.
Yeah.
And keeping in mind that we've already helped out with counseling at the amount of 150,000.
Yes, we have not done an agreement with them yet because we're waiting on decisions from this, but the 150,000 is
Approved. Yeah.
I agree. I would like to do the 109. Okay. So maybe instead of 400%, it's more like 250% when you add 3 more kids in. It's a year and 3 quarters. And it's 21 months. I think that's, I'm sort of doing the math with 11 instead of 8. Same math you were doing, except that I'm doing it in my head.
That's dangerous.
So I just want to make sure that I'm thinking this through, because I don't want to make a mistake, Chad, because I'm not understanding. So I think that I heard 8 kids from March of 2021 to March of 2022. Is that accurate or not accurate?
See, I believe I provided it all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all laid out for you, like over time. You
Yeah.
see it.
I have that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, is that accurate? Okay, and then going forward, would that be
3 kids.
3 more in addition to the 8,
Yeah.
or is it 11, or is it 3?
3.
I can tell you this.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Sure, we'll listen.
I'm looking at 2021, start April.
Okay.
So April through December, we had 3 kids. So that's 3 kids there in 2021. Okay. And we move into 2022. And we had 3 kids there. So that's 6 kids served.
Okay. Okay.
And then in 2022, 2023 projected, we've got 3. So we got 3, 6, 9.
Somehow I thought it was 3 in addition to the 8. So
The
I
response
thought
to
we were
my
using
question
8
about,
as a baseline.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No worries.
The response to my question about the numbers and to reconcile the various statements that have been made in the amount. It was responded that amendment to the time period for the requested funds from our original submission, we neglected to update the last half of that sentence. We did serve 8 Albany County youth from March 2020 to the time of our request. 4 reflects the number served from March 2021 to the date of request. And 3 is the projected number we will serve within our residential program for the time of request through 2023. That was the response to my question.
That's correct, because I could actually see it on my report here. I've got the kids' names in here.
Oh, we don't need that.
Their
No, it's
initials.
okay, Chad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just want you to realize that when I started to project 2022 to 2023, I have a to be placed in 2022 here.
Yeah.
So if we add them up, it is 8. And then we got that one there, 9.
I'll tell you what's going through my brain. I've been trying to figure out how to break this down by kid. And I know 2021 to 2022, it was much less expensive to take care of a kid than it is going forward. So I'm figuring I'll just double that, and I should be fairly close, but I might not be. So tell me where I'm wrong. Okay.
Well, I mean, I could give you like an estimate or a deficit per day. So you could calculate out the number of days per kid. Based on our cost, that's where I came with 233 is based on these higher cost per day numbers. So kids could, based on where we're at now, move forward, It costs us $233,600. We're only gonna get reimbursed $138,700. So that's a $94,900 deficit. If they're there for the whole year.
Okay.
But when you take the daily cost of the kid on the one side of the numbers and you add them up, you don't get to this number. So it means that this isn't just for Albany County kids. It means that it's, that. Does that make sense? If you take the big number and divide, you get an answer that if you take the little number and multiply, those two they're not the same. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What you're asking for is more than, if you have a deficit across the whole facility, that's different than a deficit related to just those kids.
Yeah, because the deficit's true to all DFS kids, not just Albany County.
So in a certain sense, the presentation is saying, help us backfill for the Albany County kids, but then you're saying, help us backfill for everyone.
When we're estimating how many Albany County kids we serve. Yeah.
Chad, does that 233 per kid amount, are you just talking room and board, or are you including the treatment and the education?
Education, everything. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
In the education, we only have 235 school days a year. Yeah. So in education, you have to bring it down a little bit for a daily rate. And that's what I did to get that 233. I was coming up with $634 a day for all the pieces. Then I can calculate that out, and then I look at the reimbursement now.
Because room and board was $375 or something.
Yeah, 375.
And the all in is $631 something.
So here, to make this less onerous for Chad, everybody here, I think that we have the ability to designate an amount, and ARPA allows us to designate those funds to 2024, that by December 31st, 2024. If they spend, let's say we give less than 508,000, and they spend, let's just make a number, 254, and they spend that amount before we get to the end of 2024, they could come back to us if you don't feel comfortable doing 508, and we still had our ARPA money left. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't, and so that allows us, I know Bailey is maybe not.
No, I think I'm following you, but the agreements with the nonprofits we did until the end of, December 2023 is our end for all the nonprofits. At that point, if they don't spend those funds, then it comes back to us to then reallocate so we can get it obligated again and spent. So you can certainly do something like that. Give a certain amount now. I don't know off the top of my head if there's any nonprofits that probably won't use all their funds. I do know maybe some county projects that maybe don't use all their funds. And then you could certainly reallocate those. You just have to keep those deadlines in your mind though.
Right. So what my thought is, and it might not be the majority of this board, is to get less than 508,000, and if you burn through that, it could show us that that's exactly what has happened the way you suggested would. Then you can come back to us and say, hey, you only gave us half of it, and we told you we needed more of it, and then we'll be amenable to that conversation. I think is that, or is that just not helpful to you?
I think it sounds like
It's all helpful.
Well, it could get you seat money to spool up. If you get to the sweet spot, then your daily sort of operating cost, per kid, it can be cut in half just by hitting the sweet spot, or cut by 40% or something. Because you heat a building, whether there's 20 kids in it or 5, the natural gas cost is the same. It's like you got all those things like that. So
And that's the goal, you know, we got 2023 looking out there, and hopefully we can get the number of kids we serve higher.
Well, if you have a waiting list, can you exhaust the waiting list? Is there or could you go all the way to 77? Like the waiting list would take you where you don't want to go.
Staff and
Yeah.
But I mean, if you were spooling up and you got to the sweet spot for the space, the staff, the programming, where it's the place that you know that you need to operate the most effectively, would that exhaust the waiting list, or is the waiting list longer than it will always be there even when you operate your sweet
The
spot?
waiting list wouldn't get us to 70, and I think that's okay. The waiting list, though, we're at a spot where it's so far out that we're telling referring agencies, like, it might be 2-3 months before we can take a kiddo. So they're going somewhere else, trying to find something else, so a kid doesn't have to sit maybe in detention for that long. So
you're hurting your market position. Basically.
Yeah, we can't bring kids in. So sweet spot 45-50.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Sure.
I was looking to be a little bit more generous to them than just half of the 508. I wanted to definitely cover the 109,812 up there behind on. And then I was proposing to half the 508,068, which would be $204,034 for a total of $13,846.
Now we're talking through 2023.
That's correct.
So
I agree. That's actually where I wasn't like in an either or. I'd go right where you are going.
yeah, so half of 508 is 254.
Correct.
But you
I'm
went with
saying I want to
204.
give that
204.
half of the 508, which is 204 and change, in addition to the 109 that they're asking.
Yeah,
So
half
for a
of
total of
508 is 254, not 204.
I'm sorry, 250.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, sorry,
Yeah.
yes,
Too many numbers.
okay. Yeah, too many, sorry.
So you're, let's do the first one, motion first, and then with the 109. So do you have that number? And then we'll move to the next one.
Okay, so I move that we approve the amount of 109,812 that was requested to make up for losses incurred in, I don't necessarily have to say the years, but
Yeah.
I guess it would be 220 to 221.
22, right? March 21 to 22.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The next motion would be for moving forward to December of 2023 from April of 2022.
I would love it if you make the motion because I rounded to 508 even, so I don't know what the other ones are.
Or you, whatever you.
Right, so I'm not adding at this point now.
Yeah.
I just, I move that we approve half of the loss through the end of 223, which would be half of 508,068, which would be 254.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. And I know you know this, but we're gonna be held to account for the being within the ARPA, the framework of what those funds are to be used for. So not necessarily staffing and some of those things, you know, and I know you're familiar with, just want to let you know that we're gonna try to maintain fidelity to that, and we have to as a county, so. Well, thank you guys, and I'm sorry to all those
Thank you very
questions.
much.
It was hard to understand. Even though you guys supplied as much, you're just more knowledgeable about your than I am. So sorry about that, but thank you.
Thank you
taking
for the
time.
opportunity
Yeah.
to keep discussing. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, item 16. Present for approval, separate recipient funding agreement for the Board of Commissioners of Albany County, Wyoming, and volunteers of American Northern Rockies for the use of ARPA funds to find temporary housing in the amount of $180,000 And Action Resource International for the use of ARPA funds for sustainable food sovereignty for Albany County, amount of $97,961 for American Rescue Plan Act grant funding. Bailey, thank you.
Of course, let's see, this agreement was, what came out of your discussion at the last meeting with BOA in regards to their ARPA funding. This is the agreement for it.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for Bailey? I entertain a motion for item 16, please.
I move that we approve item 16 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign, please. That motion carries. Item 17, present for approval fiscal year 2023 contract for services to victims of crimes between the State of Wyoming Office of the Attorney General, Division of Victim Services, and the Albany County Commissioners, Albany County Victim Witness Program for July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023, in an amount not to exceed $197,939. David, please.
This is our agreement for our crime victim witness program. The funding was cut this year, as you guys already know, because we've come to you asking for more match. Fawn was here, she had an emergency, so she's not able to attend, but I can answer any questions you guys have for this. It is a 2-year grant, however, they break it into 1 year at a time because it goes off of a budget of 1 year.
Commissioners, any questions for Bailey, please? I'd entertain a motion for item 17 then.
I move that we approve item 17 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Present for approval, the removal of the airport, the removal of the memorandum of understanding between the Albuquerque Human Resources Division and the Laramie Airport Tour. I hope that's close.
Yes, thank you. So, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, yesterday I received a phone call and followed by a letter from Vincent McMillan, Jody Shea, who is the airport's attorney. And due to my departure with the county and where they are standing currently, they have decided to cease the MOU with us. And so Jody wrote a letter, which I have for Jackie, that they are making notice today that they will end the MOU and it will end and be terminated on August 18th. So before I leave, I will be meeting with Amy. We'll be making the transition for all of their files back to the airport, along with their software and programs as well.
Okay, Christina, thank you. Commissioners, any questions? So will they be responsible for their own, are they on bamboo? Is that?
They are on Bamboo, but they're on their own account.
Yeah.
So everything is individual for the library, the airport, and the airport.
Okay, and is Amy gonna handle the HR services out there?
Yeah, so I don't know what their plan is exactly, but I know that they, between Rachel, she's looking at hiring a deputy director, that they have something in the works, so.
Okay, super. Commissioners, any questions? I'd entertain a motion for item 18. Removal of the MOU. I'm guessing, is that the correct word? Right, the removal?
Yeah.
Termination.
Termination.
I move that we approve the termination of the MOU between the county and airport for the human resource services.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing that all is in favor, signify by saying aye.
You need to say effective. I'm just wondering.
Effective August 16th? What did you say?
18.
18th?
Yeah.
Okay, August 18th, 2022.
Second agrees.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all is in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 19. Present for termination the MOU between the Albany County Human Resources and the Albany County Fair Board. And is there a date on that?
It's the same, so it'll be the July 19th, notice today, terminate August 18th. Both of
Effective,
their contracts say 30 days.
okay, effective August 18th. Any questions for Christine?
Yeah, Christina, why the termination of this one if Jana isn't in charge of?
Good question.
MOU?
Yeah, so the reason for the termination, and I have not been present to their meetings. Jana has and Jennifer has, so they can speak a little bit more to that. But they did not want to sign the MOU agreement, so they're actually not under a current contract with us as we speak. There were some questions about whether or not they felt their HR services were needed. They felt like they could do it on their own. And so, as you know, they have not, or as I just disclosed, they have not signed the MOU, so we're not even under contract.
Oh, I didn't realize.
And so with that, and with me departing and then speaking with Jennifer to just kind of clean things up, even though they're not under contract, I wanted to make it very clear that since they refused to sign the MOU and they felt they could do the services on their own, that we were ending it on our end as well, which is why the letter is written by me and not by them, and that you guys will have that for the record. Is there anything you'd like to add, Jennifer?
And Christina, when you say they, is that Taylor? Is that the board?
I can't speak to it fully because I have not been present. It's my understanding that it's direction from the board and in conjunction with Taylor and their feeling that they can do all of those things on their own. So,
And
It would have to be a board decision.
it was a decision of the board. They, at their June, I think at their June meeting, maybe that's not right, back up. It was their May meeting. They had the discussion about the MOU. They had some additional questions. Jana was at that meeting. At the June meeting, Jana wasn't there, and they had postponed the discussion on the MOU until their June meeting. When their questions weren't resolved, they just let the motion die at that point, and they instructed Taylor, the board instructed Taylor to reach out to the accountant who's doing their bookkeeping about payroll services through that accounting service so that they're not doing their payroll. My suggestion to them at the time was you need to have a professional who is doing your accounting and making sure all of your payroll and your payroll taxes are taken care of. And then with all of Christina's leaving and they got notice of that, at their last meeting, the discussion was that they were gonna wait and see what, with Christina leaving, who was getting hired, and they would like to explore working with the county to still do the HR part of the job, but have the bookkeeper do the payroll part of the job. And I don't know what that will look like. They were gonna wait and see how things work out. I do believe the board is going to be sending an email to the commissioners just to give them the information about what they are doing and what their plan is going forward.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, so if it was never signed, we don't have an MOU. This is sort of moot, isn't it?
Sort of, there's been an underlying, and there's a clause in the MOU that talks about like on a month-to-month basis essentially. And so even though they didn't sign anything, we've still been providing service. As a matter of fact, they've called me 3 times today for items that they need. And so we're still kind of providing, essentially we're doing it for free.
Well, I was gonna say, have you
So-
received payment?
Yeah, no, we have not received payment. So essentially I'm doing the services for free, and we can have a further discussion about that at a later time, but yeah, I mean, it's.
Well, they need their documents. I mean,
Jennifer's,
you have to transition.
well, sure,
that.
Right.
but we're not talking about
Yeah.
transitioning documents.
Oh, I
We're
get
talking
you.
about doing something that they're needing at this time. So, but per Jennifer and I's conversation, she just felt like the letter would still clean things up because there is that small clause about a month-to-month service. And so
From the
this,
old MOU
yeah, so
that-
this just makes it clean across the board, even though it's not needed. We wanted to put something in writing to them.
Anything else, commissioners? I entertain a motion for item 19.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we terminate the MOU or the remnants of the MOU that we have with the Albany County Fair Board effective August 18th, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I just wanted the record to reflect that they did not sign the MOU. We have been down a path in my tenure with the Fair Board before where HR services cost a pretty penny. And I want the record to reflect that this commission did not sign this. The fair board did not sign this. And so if there is
And I'm a
another,
little miffed that we didn't know that this was stuff. Yeah, we're just learning about it tonight.
There was nothing we could do about it. We know. I mean, I haven't received
didn't
it
know.
back. Yeah. I mean,
I knew that, but I didn't know we were still providing HR services. So I thought they stopped calling you when they didn't sign the thing.
And let me be clear,
And that's my fault because I didn't circle back to ask that question. That would be a logical conclusion, but maybe not an accurate one.
let me be
Anyway.
clear, Sue, not one member of the board came forward to me, wrote me an email, called me, or asked me any of the questions that they had at those meetings so that I could address them. So I can't even tell you what their questions were. Jana filled me in as Jennifer indicated. Jana was at the May meeting, but not at the June meeting. Jana filled me in just briefly, but really their biggest concern, at least how I understood it, was the addition of the $2,000 to their contract, which I explained to you because of the amount of services that we were doing and providing. That is the only thing that I was aware of as a question. Nothing else, to my knowledge, has been brought forward. And to be clear, so that I'm covered regarding your concerns, not one member had reached out to me and asked me any of their questions. So I wasn't even given the opportunity to respond or any of those things because I don't even know what those questions were.
Well, I can tell you that my understanding is that they didn't feel like the value was there, maybe that they needed, they didn't understand the increase, and maybe that's what got them thinking about doing it in-house. Now, to the chairman's point, I think what you're saying is, and we have a motion, right? And we're gonna vote on this, but so this is sort of side commentary, but I think what you're saying is if HR things blow up over there and they come to us with their hat in their hand, they might not find a very receptive group here for, to swoop in with the solution.
yeah,
Which is also why my advice to them was, when they were talking about not renewing, and I do think there was some miscommunication from the board. If Jana was taking the questions back, or if Jana thought the board was gonna send something, the board thought Jana was taking questions back, it didn't get answered. But my commentary to them was, if you're not going to renew, you better have a plan in place to demonstrate to the commissioners that financially, the books of the board, the payroll, all of these things are being taken by someone who does this job. Not somebody in-house, but somebody who does this job out of house. So the last conversation I had with anybody was that they are working on finding somebody to do that portion, that accounting portion of it.
Yeah, it's pretty tough when you go to the clerk and the treasurer and say, help us clean up our stuff.
Yes.
And Mr. Chairman, I would be happy to have a private conversation about some additional concerns that I have, but I don't think that it's appropriate for public record at this point.
perfect. Yeah, I just want to know it's not been, my memory is not so short that I don't remember what happened. And I remember the zeros on the check. So we're not going to travel that path again. So, as far as I'm concerned, and nor should we. So if they got it, they got it. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 20, accept the letter of resignation from Christina Lewis, Human Resources Director, and direct HR to advertise a vacancy. Christina.
Yes, so you guys are already aware of my resignation, but I wanted to formally put it on the agenda. I recently accepted a position as the Associate Human Resources Director with the Monroe County Sheriff's Department in the Florida Keys. So my family and I are relocating down to the Florida Keys. As I shared with Sue when her and I talked about it personally, it has nothing to do with the county. I love my job here. I've been here for 15 years. Everyone in this organization has been fantastic. One of my lifelong goals has always been to move to Florida. And that opportunity presented itself. And when I applied for the position, I never thought that they would ever offer it. I thought I'd get an interview, but never offer it, right? Who offers to somebody that's 2,200 miles away? And obviously that did not happen. So I am putting in my letter of resignation. Tentatively, my last day with the county will be August 19th. That'll give or take a little bit just with all the moving pieces of the move. But that is what is on my letter. And then direct to advertise, as you guys already know, we've already posted the job because we'd really like to get someone in here before I go. I don't know if that'll be feasible, but we do have that up on the website currently.
Christina, thank you for your service. Commissioner Sandy?
And Christina, if by chance we don't get whoever we hire up to speed by the time your last day, you would be willing to, if we needed to, contract with us to get things done?
Yeah, there's some very important things like our quarterly reporting, and some things that if nobody's ever done that before can be rough. And so I'm more than happy to do that. As I shared with you, and I'll share with all of the commission, Florida's 2 hours ahead. And so when it's 5 o'clock there and I'm done at work there, it's 3 o'clock here. And so I've already mentioned that to my new employer and saying, you know, I have 2 hours that will affect my time there if I need to do some contract work here. So I am more than happy to do that if that is something that the county is of interest in.
Thank you. That's generous of you. That really is it. And thank you for giving us a heads up with the July 8th letter. You know, you could have done the 2 weeks, and it was very difficult to hire. And so thank you for doing that and showing that deep courtesy. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I like.
She's HR.
Yeah. Well, that
Right.
you know, I was your first HR director, and so there's a lot that's very valuable to me, you know, and I don't want to see the county fail. And with Amanda being gone with the baby and all of those things, you know, there's going to be a lot of changes in itself. So just giving you guys plenty of time. We may not find anybody before I go, but we're sure going to try. That way we can get somebody in. So.
I would like to say that, you know, the clerk's office did the HR before we hired an HR director. And I think that probably in retrospect, I can't really speak for the clerk's office, but as a commissioner in retrospect, I see a lot of value that Christina brought, and vision and execution, right? Because she had to sort of create an HR environment that all of the departments could understand and interact with. And you've been very fair. In some corporate settings, HR is like stooges for the owners or, you know, something. And she has a very good balanced approach related to law, employment law, you know, and you've been very good. A lot of what we do, you can take for granted because you don't know what sort of professional formation goes into that, you know, just when we update the employee handbook and stuff like that, and just our processes for hiring and work improvement plans or, you know, evaluations. It's made our environment a lot better. And I think our employees, they feel more secure, they feel more appreciated, and they feel they have certainty about where they stand, even all the way to our pay scale and where they fit into that. And sort of the, you know, there's a lot more, employees need that predictability, and it wasn't like that before. So it's you've helped us tremendously. This is a completely different place to work in a better way, because of the professionalism that you brought to this job. And I was here when we got her, and it was good. It was good. So I appreciate it very much, and congratulations.
Christina, I just want to say it's been fun working with you, not only as commissioner, but as your direct supervisor. I've enjoyed getting to know you. Appreciate all that luck and I'm glad you got a big house because my house is.
Yeah, I know. Everybody wants to come visit. We posted some pictures on Facebook about the sandbars that are about 10 miles out on the boat from our house. And that has drawn in lots and lots of comments about people wanting to come visit, so.
Oh, the sandbars are fun, because when the tide's in, they sort of disappear, and when the tide goes out, you just go out there and mess around.
And my kids are super excited. We have pineapples and banana trees in our yard.
Yeah,
That's what.
Who knew what would make them excited, but that excites them, is pineapples and banana trees. So, yeah, everybody's looking forward to it. It'll be an adventure. I wasn't expecting to leave. I had talked about moving to Florida after our kids graduated. And so, 4 or 5 years from now, but this just happened to come up and here we are. So we're gonna do it now.
We're coming with you. We're gonna be Monroe County Commissioner.
Yeah.
Thanks for the heads up letter and thanks for the.
Congratulations on the new job and thanks for the 15 years. That's a 7,
not 15.
No.
You said 15.
Did I?
did.
I said,
Yeah.
I was thinking,
I was like,
she hasn't been here
I've lived in
15
Laramie
years.
15 years. I'm sorry. Not
I
here.
knew,
Well, you
I
came in
figured,
2:15.
I figured she was making a
Yeah,
statement
that's
about
right.
the
Sorry.
time and all.
well, thanks for the 7 years.
Yes,
I do appreciate
It
it.
felt like 15,
Yeah.
didn't it?
As a person who does a little HR in his day job, I have such regard for that work. And I'm a little concerned about those who are choosing to do it as part-timers. But thank you, Christina, and we'll miss you.
Thank you.
I guess I'd entertain a motion for item 20.
I move that we accept the letter of resignation from Fiscal Resource Director.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes, and we've already advertised.
Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 21. Present for approval letter to Nancy Bartholomew, Laramie City Clerk, to allow Calverman to LLC doing business at Calverman Steakhouse to apply for a catering permit for the Ivanson Managed Gathering event at Dallas Art Student Center, 603 East University Avenue on July 2022 from 4 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Kayla.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Commissioners. This is a letter to the city clerk allowing the Calverman to use their license within city limits.
This seems like another, they had another one, did they? All right.
They cater a lot of events within city limits, I think, because they're so close to, they're within the 1 mile, so.
There are no questions. Entertain a motion for 21.
I move that we approve item 21 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 22, present for approval, application for catering permit for Waikoloa Lodge for Waikoloa Volunteer Fire Department fundraiser located at 4039 Highway 230, Laramie, Wyoming, 82070 from 7 a.m. August 13th, 2022 to 2 a.m. on August 14th, 2022. Kayla.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is a catering permit for Waikoloa Lodge. I think it's their annual fundraiser that they do for the volunteer fire department up there.
Party.
Yeah,
They raise a lot of
they're
money.
asking to maximize their time.
Their fire department, their sort of auxiliary or foundation or whatever you want to call it. Theirs is the most healthy one in Albany County.
They just built a new building not long ago.
They crush it. I guess if you have a big fire right in your neighborhood, it kind of.
Couple of them. There've been a couple.
It kind of motivates people to appreciate that.
Right?
I'd entertain a motion for item 22, please.
I move that we approve item 22, the catering permit for Waikoloa Lodge.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 23, present for approval, application for special malt beverage permit for Rand Cell doing business Tom Horn Days LLC for rodeo located at 1515 Two Rivers Road, Bosler, Wyoming on August 12th, 2022 from 1 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. and August 13th and 14th, 2022 from 8 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. daily. Kayla.
So this is their annual Tom Horn Days that they do up in Bosler. It's an outdoor rodeo that's out in the middle of the field, and like to sell beer, and that's what they sell. So
Commissioner, do you have questions? Entertain a motion for 23 then, please.
I move that we approve item 23 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Kayla. Item 24, request a statement of the receipts and expenditures of the county during the preceding 12 months, setting forth the source and the amount of all receipts and the purpose and the amount of all expenditures to be prepared upon reconciliation of all accounts by the county treasurer and the county clerk not later than September 30th, 2022, pursuant to Wyoming State Statute 18.3-515. Jackie.
Chairman, Commissioners, this is a requirement under Wyoming statute that the Board of County Commissioners request from the county treasurer and the county clerk the statement of receipts and expenditures from the previous 12 months, the last fiscal year, to be presented and advertised before September 30th. At this time, I'm requesting the request so that I can move forward to get this advertised pursuant to Wyoming statute.
Commissioners, any questions?
Get it done, Jackie.
I entertain a motion for 24 then.
I move that we approve the request for a statement of the receipts and expenditures of the county during the preceding 12 months.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 25, present for approval the request to close the county clerk's office on Tuesday, August 16th, 2022, primary election day, and November 8th, 2022, general election day for all business except the recording of documents pursuant to Wyoming State Statute 22-2-112. Jackie, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, as we look forward to the primary election, which is a month away from today, my office is dispatched out to conduct voter registration at the polls. I would request permission to close not only on August 16th primary election day, but also on November 8th general election day to allow my staff to assist us at the polls and to not provide any service other than the recording of documents that is required under Wyoming statute.
Commissioners, any questions? I entertain a motion for 25 then. Thank you, Jackie.
I move that we approve item 25 and allow the clerk's office to close on Tuesday, August 16th for primary election and November 8th, 2022, general election day for all business except the recording of documents pursuant to Wyoming statute 22-2-112.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. 26. Thank you, Jackie. Present for approval, resolution 2022-015, resolution to place two propositions regarding general purpose optional 1% county sales tax fifth penny on the general election ballot to be held in Albany County, Wyoming on Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. One, to establish the term of the tax is permanent. And commissioners, any questions about that? Which I have. So one to re-up for 4 years and the other one to say to the people of Albany County, you've re-upped it so many times, do you not want us to ask you again?
And if the city and Rock River have already approved this.
All right, I entertain a motion for 26, please. Then.
I move that we approve item 26 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
I have a question for Jackie. Are there ballot instructions so that people know that they can vote for both? You know, that these are, it's not an or, it's, you know.
Commissioner Richardson, that's a very important question. Thank you. Actually, each question will be a separate question. And so it's the language either for or against on each of the questions that will be presented. So it's not an or in between, a conjunction that will be used to.
So since they're each in their own box on the ballot, the assumption is that you're going to consider each one separately.
Just like you consider the constitutional amendments, there'll be two constitutional amendments on the ballot. There will also be two ballot questions pertaining to the optional fifth penny on the ballot, along with the lodging tax question.
In the shape, in the way that the ballots are formatted, do these two questions show up sequentially on the ballot, or do they show up at different spots completely?
They will be shown sequentially on the ballot.
Gotcha, because they're not candidates, so it's probably candidates and then other things.
Actually, they'll be the last 3 questions on the ballot. It'll be the constitutional amendments, the 2 questions regarding the optional 5th penny, and then the lodging tax question.
Gotcha.
And as you recall, we were at our work session with the city as well as Rock River. We discussed educating the public in advance about this with article in the paper or instructions or an advertisement or something. So that they know it's not one or the other, it can be both.
And the city has reached out to Jackie's office, and Jackie and I went through the questions that they had asked and helped them update some questions and sent that back that they were going to use at their Freedom has a birthday.
Freedom has a birthday. They had a
and some things. So that education piece has already started.
Good.
I entertain a motion for, we've moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carried. Item 27, present for approval, memorandum of understanding among the boards of county commissioners of the state of Wyoming regarding congressional tour initiative. And Heber, this is probably yours, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's good fun. There's just a schedule, you know, and I can't remember when it would come here. Oh yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Well, just
I know, it's super fun. Anyway, the MOU basically outlines cost, timing, and so on. All of the accounting, who pays for what, who does what, and it's good. If you guys read what's in the
Yeah, there'll be a lead county who's responsible for each of the region tours.
right. And I'm going to guess that when it's Niobrara, Albany, and Platte, you know, I guess Goshen and Laramie will probably be, Laramie County will probably be the lead county. But I'm going to guess that the most interesting places to see for the congressional tour are actually in Albany County. You know, just saying. So it'll be interesting when it comes our turn how we work that out with Laramie County. But
and Platte, Goshen, and Niobrara.
yes, we could let Goshen take the lead.
I have a friend that has a winery over there. That can be really. We got to go to Goshen.
No, we probably should take the lead. But that gets decided later.
All right. And so the dues are about $1,000, a little bit over, yes.
1,323.
Thank you. 1322. And that would probably be coming out of the commissioner's budget, I imagine. Super. I entertain a motion for 27 then.
I move that we approve item 27 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 28, set special meeting on Monday, August 1st, 2022, to set mill levies for 2022-2023 budget and accept special district compliance reports from Chelsea Matt, County Assessor. Chelsea, anything to add to that?
No, I just wanted to make sure I was here so that I know the date and the time.
Commissioners, does that day and time work for you? Is that something that we don't have any leeway on? Does it have to be August 1st? Well, there you go. So it's August 1st.
Yeah, but what time?
Yep, you get to pick a time.
What works? Morning, afternoon?
Morning for me. I've got an obligation in this room actually from 1:30 to 3:30 that afternoon.
Yeah, 3:30 to 4:30 afterwards. I'm just in this room. So
morning is fine.
Okay, what works? 9 a.m.
9.
Sure.
Okay, let's just set that right now. Will that work? Everybody else Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I will place this on your August 2nd agenda, but would you give some thought as to moving the August 16th meeting, since that is election day, to either, actually, if you moved it to August 23rd, you would still have 2 weeks in between the August 23rd meeting and the September 6th meeting.
Matt would appreciate that because I'm gone on the 16th.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's
There's
a
5 Tuesdays.
Tuesday in August, yeah.
Man, it's always tough because we always have a commission meeting.
It'll be nicer though, and that will make it so that your September, that first meeting in September isn't so terrible. When we have that 5th Tuesday and then we have a meeting, our agenda is always huge.
Right, we just load it up.
Well, yeah, we got a whole extra week of stuff in there.
So does anybody have a problem with that? I think it makes a lot of sense with primary election day. And so can we move it to the 23rd? Can we do that, please? Jackie, great advice. Thank you.
You want it to also be 6 PM on the 23rd, correct?
Yeah.
Keep it as the evening
Yeah.
meeting. Okay.
That'll,
And then advertise it that way.
okay.
And that's brilliant.
Yeah, you don't need a motion to set the special meeting. Don't require that, okay? Item 29, approval of payroll vouchers for July 2022. Commissioners, I entertain a motion.
I move that we approve payroll vouchers for July 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Just one item before we leave, and it's not on the agenda, and it doesn't have any item. I saw something come through, Jackie, thank you for sending about Waco, posting Waco. Putting it on the county as a entity didn't seem reasonable, but it did sure seem reasonable if the tourism board wanted to take that rascal over. Because we're putting people in beds and people in seats. And so is there a way that we can reach out to them and say, hey, we might be amenable to this if you were willing to help us, or your thoughts on that, guys? Because it is a bunch of people.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
For this year?
I don't believe it's this year.
No, it's not.
Next year. Okay.
Next year. So,
Well, so it's about putting in a bid. There's probably multiple counties that bid.
and I thought the tourism board might be the correct place to go, and they might have the ability to put in the bid for us. I don't know.
I would be happy to take it to the tourism board.
That would be great.
I mean, there are some things that the elected officials,
Right.
still have to do.
Right.
But to organize the whole thing, it's not.
Right. Yeah, we can't do that.
It's not it's not in our wheelhouse. It's not really who we are.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Steve.
And we hosted it before and it went well.
What year?
Maybe 2016,
Oh,
17.
that recent?
Yeah.
Does WCCA?
No wonder you remember how hard work it was.
Conference space and do all that, or they require the county that's putting in the bid to do that?
I think that Waco does that. The Wyoming Association of County Officials has a budget and dues are paid into it, and it takes care of that.
Okay.
And mostly it does through sponsorship,
15 and 16.
because they're,
Oh, it's 2 years?
yeah, we did.
Okay.
It's a 2-year bid, so you do it
Oh.
You do it
twice.
2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Okay. So that might
Which
make
means it means the organizing has some sort of extended value,
Right.
you know what I mean? It's hard, it's a hard lift to do just one time.
Right.
And it's been like that for a long time.
Well, I'd love if they want to be the lead pony on this one, I'd love that for our community, if that's something that worked out.
The county officials like coming to Laramie.
Especially in the fall, they already football that weekend.
Well, and we probably shouldn't do it on a football weekend because that.
Well, isn't it usually during the week?
Yeah.
Isn't it midweek?
It is. It's done by Friday. It could be done on a football weekend. weekend.
Yeah, then if there was a
Stay.
game on Saturday, people could stay if they wanted.
There's a deadline, right, Jackie?
Yes, there is a deadline to submit and presentation has to be made to the Waco board at the Waco meeting in September. And generally in the past, the elected officials went with the sponsor, and it has always been the tourism board that have worked with us, as well as we had it at the Hilton Conference Center. And they were there with us when we made our bid. In fact, we had little footballs that lit up that said Waco. And we dispersed them so that we were hopeful that they would choose Albany County, and we were successful at that time.
Yeah, and actually this last round, so this is the second year at Gillette. This last round, we had 3 Albany County officials on the Waco board. Grant, Peggy, and me. And the Albany County's presentation just didn't have the detail and the word put into it that Gillette's did. So we basically were voting against our own county. When we had almost half the votes on there, because it was interesting, but it needed to be probably that way. It's okay. We can do better.
Yeah, if tourism does want to get on board, I don't know how we can do it.
Right.
Yep. But I can be convinced. I just don't know who's going to risk.
We don't have to travel.
There's a lot of good parts about it.
Seriously.
Well, and if tourism doesn't want to do it, I'm sure you could reach out to like the sales department at the Hilton or something, and they'll coordinate rooms and whatever you need for big events. They do it all the time. Be better if the tourism department was involved.
The lodging business,
yeah,
they're integrated in that's where they get the funds.
Yeah.
Like, it's lodging taxes that do that. So
yeah, makes sense.
So whatever door you go through, if you go through the Hilton door or the tourism front door, if you went in the Hilton door, they would just take you through the tourism board door, because that's where the funding is to promote Laramie. And it's actually good if you think about where tourism, you could probably get more money coming into Laramie from Wyoming and northern Colorado and Utah and Nebraska than you can from Germany. You know what I'm saying? Like, the point is that when they consider the value of what they promote, especially to community leaders all over the state, there's a good return on that investment for tourism work.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that if somebody were to present to me a 2-year grant at my day job, and I only had one proposal, I would be very serious in considering writing that proposal. So maybe they will, maybe they won't, but I will send that on to them, and then Eber, if you'll follow up with their head at the tourism board and see if they want to make a move on it. But
Sure.
That would be great.
I'll do it.
Thanks. Seeing no more business before the county commission on July 19th, 2022. Adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks for spending time with us, and we'll see you in the 1st of August is the next meeting. So, good night.
Thanks, all.